Okay, so are you ready to dive deep into some growth hacking?
Let's do it.
All right, so we're talking about those clever strategies that businesses use to go from like, who are they, to, oh, wow, they're everywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
You know those companies that just seem to pop up everywhere you look?
Right.
We've got a stack of their stories right here, and we're going to break down exactly how they did it.
Sounds good.
So you've got the stack of articles about growth hacking,
Yeah.
and it sounds kind of technical, right?
It does sound
A little bit.
buzzwordy.
But trust me, it's way more interesting than it sounds.
Oh, yeah.
Think of it like this. How did companies like Airbnb, Netflix, even Hotmail back in the day go from zero to household names?
Mm-hmm.
That's the magic of growth hacking, and we are about to unlock some of those secrets.
Yeah. And it's about thinking outside that traditional marketing box, right?
Yeah.
It's about finding creative and often scrappy ways to scale your business.
I like that, scrappy.
Yeah.
I like that.
And what I think is really fascinating about it is that these aren't just random tactics.
Right.
They're rooted in psychology data and this deep understanding of human behavior.
Okay, so spill the tea.
Yeah.
What are some of the most surprising examples you found?
Well, let's start with a classic example, Hotmail.
Okay.
Remember them back in the
Useful.
90s?
Yeah.
They figured out this super simple but very effective way to get their name out there.
Okay.
That iconic email footer.
Oh, yeah.
P.S. I love you. Get your free email at Hotmail.
Oh, my gosh.
Just a quick line added to every outgoing email.
Yeah.
And boom, instant brand ambassadors.
That is so smart. Every email became a mini billboard.
Exactly. They tapped into the power of social proof.
Okay.
When people saw their friends using Hotmail, they figured, hey, it must be good if everyone else is using it.
It's that everyone else is doing it mentality.
Exactly.
And it obviously worked because Hotmail gained millions of users without spending a ton of money on advertising.
Yeah, it's true.
Kind of makes you wonder why we don't see that tactic more often, right?
Well, the landscape has changed a lot since the 90s,
That's true.
but the principle still holds true.
Okay.
Look at Dropbox, for example.
Okay.
They incentivize referrals by giving out free storage.
Smart.
A win-win for everyone.
Totally. It's like a built-in growth engine. You use it, you love it, you tell a friend, more growth.
Precisely.
Love it.
And speaking of smart strategies, let's talk about Airbnb.
Okay.
They realized early on that people are visual,
Yes.
especially when it comes to booking travel.
100%.
So what did they do?
What did they do?
They offered free professional photography to their hosts.
So simple, but so smart. A picture's worth 1,000 words, right?
Absolutely. High-quality photos make a huge difference. It builds trust and makes the listings more appealing.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Airbnb didn't just assume it would work.
Okay.
They used A/B testing to compare listings with professional photos to those without.
Oh, wow.
And the result? Bookings went up for the listings with better photos.
Data-driven decisions for the win?
Yes.
It's like they took the guesswork out of it.
Exactly.
Okay, ready for another example that blew my mind?
Hit me with it.
Duolingo.
Okay.
They turned language learning something that can feel like a chore
Right.
into a game.
Genius, right?
Yes.
Streak counts, leaderboards, virtual rewards. They tapped into our natural desire for achievement and competition.
Yeah.
Suddenly, instead of just learning a language, you're leveling up and beating your last school.
And who doesn't love a little friendly competition?
Exactly.
Especially when it helps you learn something new.
Right.
Okay, last one before we switch gears.
Okay.
Tell me about Costco. I feel like they've cracked the code on brand loyalty.
Their membership model is fascinating.
It is.
That annual fee, it's not just about generating revenue.
Right.
It creates this sense of exclusivity, like you're part of a special club.
Okay.
And it motivates people to shop there more often,
Yeah.
to feel like they're getting their money's worth.
It's like that feeling of, I already paid for the gym membership, I might as well go.
Exactly.
But instead of guilt, it's the thrill of a deal.
The thrill of a deal.
I like that.
Okay, so we've talked about email footers, free storage, pretty pictures, gamification, and the allure of exclusive clubs.
Mhm.
What's next on our list of growth hacking genius?
Well, let's talk about TED Talks.
Okay.
They've managed to create a brand that's both accessible and exclusive.
Okay, that sounds a little contradictory. How does that work?
Think about it. Their talks are available for free online, right?
Right.
Anyone can watch them.
Right.
But then they host these live events that cost a fortune to attend.
So it's like they're playing both sides of the field.
Exactly. The free content spreads their message far and wide, building brand awareness on a global scale.
Yeah.
But the live events, because they're expensive and exclusive, enhance their prestige and create a sense of scarcity.
So you're telling me that giving something away for free
Right.
can actually make it seem more valuable.
In a way, yes. It's about creating different levels of engagement.
You can enjoy TED Talks from the comfort of your own home.
Yeah.
Or you can shell out the big bucks for the in-person experience.
Okay, that's clever.
Hmm?
Speaking of clever, those little Apple stickers you get with every product, pure genius, if you ask me.
They're iconic. Such a simple thing, but it's a brilliant example of using social proof as a branding tool.
Totally.
People love to show off their affinity for brands they admire.
It's like a badge of honor. I'm part of the Apple Club.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's not just about showing off. It's about creating a sense of community, of belonging.
Speaking of community, let's talk about Netflix. Back in the day, they actually encouraged password sharing,
Interesting.
something most companies try to prevent.
Right.
It was a bold move, but it paid off big time.
It did.
They understood the power of word-of-mouth marketing.
Yeah.
By letting people share their passwords, they were essentially giving away free trials.
It's like a try before you buy, but powered by your friends.
Exactly.
Exactly. Many of those who initially hopped on a friend's account eventually became paying subscribers. Yeah.
Okay. This next example is a classic case of thinking outside the box.
Okay.
Tell me everything you know about Michelin, the tire company, and their surprising claim to fame.
This one still blows my mind.
Yeah.
They wanted to sell more tires? So what did they do? They created the Michelin Guide
For restaurants.
for restaurants.
Wait, seriously? The tire company made the restaurant guide.
Yep. It's a perfect example of long-term thinking.
Wow.
They knew that if they could encourage people to drive further to try out these highly rated restaurants,
Right.
they would naturally need more tires.
That's brilliant. So they created a need and then positioned themselves as the solution.
Exactly. It's about creating a win-win situation.
Love it.
Drivers get a fantastic resource for finding great restaurants, and Michelin sells more tires.
Okay, I'm starting to see a pattern here.
What's that?
Whether it's a simple email footer or a world-renowned restaurant guide, growth hacking is all about understanding what motivates people
Yes?
and finding creative ways to tap into those desires.
You got it. It's about looking beyond the obvious and finding those unconventional paths to success.
Okay, before we get too far ahead of ourselves,
Okay.
let's rewind a bit and talk about Reddit.
Okay, sure.
They pulled off a pretty interesting growth hack in their early days, right?
Oh yeah, they weren't afraid to get a little creative.
What'd they do?
In the beginning, to make their platform seem more active and engaging, they actually used bots.
Bots. You mean like those automated accounts that interact on social media?
Exactly. They programmed these bots to simulate user activity, posting comments, starting discussions, that kind of thing.
So it was like creating the illusion of a bustling community.
Precisely. They knew that people are more likely to stick around if a platform seems lively and engaging.
It's like that saying, if you build it, they will come. But in this case, it's more like if you make it look like people are already there, they'll definitely come.
Exactly. And you know what's interesting? Once enough real users joined Reddit organically,
Yeah.
they didn't need the bots anymore. The community had reached a critical mass and was self-sustaining.
So it was a temporary measure to kickstart growth, and it obviously worked. Speaking of smart moves, LinkedIn had a strategy for standing out in the crowded world of online networking.
Yeah. What did they do?
So they knew that in the digital age, visibility is key.
Right.
So they made sure their users were easy to find, not just on LinkedIn itself, but on Google too.
Smart people were already using Google to search for potential employees, clients, collaborators.
Exactly.
LinkedIn just made sure they were part of that conversation.
Exactly. They optimized their user profiles to rank high in search results.
Oh, interesting.
So when someone Googled a person's name, their LinkedIn profile would often be one of the top results.
That is so smart.
It's like having a digital billboard on the busiest street corner. You're putting your best foot forward right when it matters most.
Precisely. And it's not just about being visible.
Right.
It's about showcasing your expertise, your experience, your unique value proposition.
So it's like a combination of SEO and personal branding. Okay, let's talk about Airbnb again.
Okay.
They had another clever hack up their sleeve,
What's that?
and it involved Craigslist.
Yes. They realized that people were already using Craigslist to find vacation rentals and short-term accommodations.
Right.
Oh.
So instead of trying to compete with Craigslist directly, they decided to work with them.
Exactly. They found a way to tap into Craigslist's existing user base.
That's so smart. Why reinvent the wheel when you can simply redirect traffic from a platform where people are already looking for what you offer?
Exactly. It was
Yeah.
a technical solution, a coding tweak, really,
Yeah.
that allowed Airbnb hosts to cross-post their listings on Craigslist.
And boom, more exposure, more bookings.
Precisely. Speaking of technical solutions, we can't talk about growth hacking without mentioning the master of algorithms, Google.
Okay, bring on the algorithms. This is where things start to get really interesting.
Google's PageRank algorithm was a game changer. It completely changed the way websites were ranked in search results.
Okay, so before PageRank came along, how did websites get to the top of the search results?
It used to be all about keywords.
Okay.
The more times a website mentioned a particular keyword,
Yeah.
the higher it would rank for that keyword.
So it was a bit of a numbers game.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But PageRank changed all that. It introduced this idea of backlinks as a measure of a website's authority.
Backlinks.
It's like a vote of confidence from one website to another.
Okay.
When a website links to another website, it's essentially saying, hey, this website has valuable information.
Gotcha.
So the more backlinks a website has, the more credible and trustworthy it appears to Google.
So the higher it ranks in search results.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was revolutionary. It leveled the playing field, making it possible for smaller, lesser-known websites to outrank bigger, more established websites as long as their content was high quality and relevant.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So instead of just counting keywords, Google started looking at the bigger picture. Yeah. The quality of the content, the relevance of the links, the overall user experience.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And that's what made PageRank so effective. It rewarded websites that were genuinely valuable to users, not just those that were good at playing the keyword game.
So if you want to succeed online, you need to create content that people actually want to read, share, and link to.
Exactly. And Google didn't stop there. They applied the same data-driven approach to advertising with their quality score algorithm.
Okay, break this one down for me. How does rewarding higher quality ads benefit everyone involved?
It's simple. By prioritizing ads that are relevant, informative, and provide a positive user experience,
Okay.
Google ensures that users are more likely to click on ads that genuinely interest them.
Which means happier users, more successful ad campaigns, and more revenue for Google.
Exactly.
A win-win-win.
Precisely.
Okay, let's shift gears again. Let's talk about Twitter and Facebook.
Okay.
They both understood the importance of making a good first impression.
Absolutely. Those first few moments on a platform are crucial.
Right.
If a new user feels lost or overwhelmed, they're more likely to abandon ship.
It makes sense. You want to make sure people feel welcome and engaged right from the start.
Right.
So what did they do?
Both Twitter and Facebook focused on improving their onboarding process.
Okay.
Twitter found that by suggesting accounts to follow during those crucial first moments on the platform, they could significantly increase user retention.
Makes sense. If a new user doesn't feel like they're connecting with anything or anyone, they're more likely to lose interest.
Precisely. And Facebook used a similar strategy, but instead of accounts, they focused on suggesting friends based on existing connections.
Because nothing beats seeing a familiar face when you're navigating a new online space.
Right.
It creates a sense of belonging and encourages users to dive right in.
Exactly.
Speaking of diving in, how did Spotify manage to convert so many free users to paying subscribers?
Their freemium model was key.
Okay.
By offering a free ad-supported version alongside a premium ad-free version.
Right.
They removed the barrier to entry and allowed users to experience the value of their service firsthand.
It's like a try before you buy approach, but for music streaming.
Exactly. And it worked wonders for their growth.
Love that. Okay, this next example is a classic case of less is more.
Oh.
YouTube's rise to video sharing dominance. What was their secret sauce?
Simplicity.
Okay.
At a time when uploading and sharing videos online was a technical nightmare, YouTube made it incredibly user-friendly.
So they identified a pain point, the complexity of video sharing,
Right.
and offered a simple, elegant solution.
Precisely. They removed the friction, making it easy for anyone to become a content creator regardless of their technical skills.
And thus, a platform for cat videos and makeup tutorials was born.
Exactly.
But in all seriousness, it's a powerful example of how a well-designed user experience can be a major growth driver.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, on the flip side, sometimes creating a sense of exclusivity can be just as effective.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Give me an example.
Gmail, back in its early days, used an invite-only system to generate buzz and create a sense of desire.
Ah, the scarcity principle. Makes something seem exclusive and suddenly everyone wants in.
Exactly. And because they coupled this strategy with a superior product,
Right.
more storage, better features, they quickly became the email provider of choice for many.
So they created a sense of you have to know someone to get this,
Right.
while also delivering a fantastic user experience.
Precisely. And speaking of fantastic user experiences, let's talk about TikTok.
Okay.
Their meteoric rise can be attributed in part to their innovative use of the interest graph.
Okay, I've heard of social graphs, but what exactly is an interest graph?
Well, as social graph connects you with people you know, and interest graph connects you with content, you'll find engaging regardless of who created it.
Okay, so instead of showing me what my friends are watching,
Right.
TikTok shows me what based on my viewing history and preferences, might enjoy.
Exactly. It's hyper-personalized content delivery, which
Yeah.
explains why it's so easy to get sucked into the TikTok vortex.
It's like they know me better than I know myself. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here, but there's one more growth hack I have to ask about because it just seems so counterintuitive.
What looks that?
Uber's surge pricing.
Ah, yes. The controversial yet effective strategy of increasing prices during peak demand.
On the surface, it seems like a surefire way to annoy your customers.
Right.
So how does it actually work?
It's all about balancing supply and demand.
Okay,
When prices surge, more drivers are incentivized to get on the road,
makes sense.
which means shorter wait times for riders even during the busiest hours.
So it's about finding a solution that benefits both sides of the equation,
Right.
the service providers and the customers.
Precisely. And by using real-time data to dynamically adjust prices, Uber created a self-regulating system that, while not always popular, has proven remarkably effective.
Okay, I think we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
We've explored a ton of examples,
Yeah.
from email footers to restaurant guides to algorithms that seem to read our minds. What ties it all together?
It's fascinating, right? The tactics themselves are so diverse.
Yeah.
But those underlying principles of growth hacking,
Yeah.
they remain consistent.
Okay.
It's about really understanding your audience,
Yeah.
their motivations, their pain points.
And then finding those creative, often unconventional solutions to address those needs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about data-driven decision-making, relentless experimentation, and challenging the status quo.
Totally. And it's like you were saying before, these aren't just like random tactics.
Right.
It's like you really have to understand like the psychology behind why people do things.
Yeah, you have to get inside their heads.
Remember how we talked about HubSpot creating that free tool?
Yeah,
That wouldn't have happened if they weren't willing to like think differently about how to attract customers.
right. They had to break the mold.
And it's like that old saying, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results.
Ooh, I like that.
Growth hacking is about breaking free from that cycle, right?
Totally. You got to try new things.
Try something new and don't underestimate the importance of a seamless user experience.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
We talked about Slack's onboarding process.
Right.
Making it incredibly easy for teams to get up and running was crucial for their growth.
Absolutely.
People are busy. If something feels too complicated or time-consuming,
Yeah, they don't have time for that.
they'll just move on to something else.
Exactly. You got to make it easy for them.
Speaking of engagement,
Yeah.
I love that example of Google partnering with Apple to make Google search the default on iPhones.
Oh, yeah. That was a smart move.
Talk about a power move.
Right. That partnership was a game changer for Google.
Totally.
It's a perfect example of leveraging each other's strengths to achieve a common goal.
Totally. It's like the saying, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
Ooh, I like that one too. Write that down.
And that's a great takeaway for our listener. Don't be afraid to seek out collaborations, partnerships, and alliances that can help you reach a wider audience.
Collaborate or die, am I right?
It's all about being resourceful, right?
Yeah.
You might not have all the answers, but you can certainly find people who do.
Exactly. There's no shame in asking for help.
Growth hacking is a team sport.
It takes a village.
So to wrap things up, what's the one piece of advice you'd give to our listener who's feeling inspired to inject some growth hacking magic into their own endeavors?
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
I'd say start by really nailing down your unique value proposition.
Okay.
What problem are you solving?
Yeah.
And how are you solving it better than anyone else?
All right. So differentiate yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Once you have a clear understanding of your strengths, then you can start brainstorming those creative ways to get your message out in front of the right people.
Find your niche, experiment like crazy, and never stop learning.
There you go.
On that note, we'll leave you with this final thought. What seemingly small change could you make in your business or project that might just have a surprisingly big impact? The answer might surprise you. Until next time, happy hacking.